People who lost their children, how do you win them back? When my son Ethan was 12, I chose cocaine over being his dad. I missed his baseball games, forgot to pick him up from school, and spent his college fund on drugs. His mom Linda finally had enough and moved 3 states away with him. The day they left, I was passed out on the couch. I woke up to an empty house and a note that said, "We can't do this anymore. Don't follow us." For 8 years, I was a ghost in my own kid's life. I'd send birthday cards that came back unopened, Christmas gifts that never got delivered. I called once a month, but Ethan would hang up the second he heard my voice. "Dad's calling," I'd hear him tell his mom through the phone. I don't want to talk to him. Each rejection felt like getting punched in the stomach, but I deserved every single one. I got clean when I was 35, but the damage was done. My son was 20 in college and wanted nothing to do with me. I didn't blame him. I destroyed everything that mattered, but I decided to start small, really small. I found out he was studying computer science at State University, so I enrolled in basic computer classes at my local community college. Not to be like him, but to understand his world. I learned about coding, programming, databases, all the stuff he was passionate about. I never told him I was doing it. I just wanted to speak his language if he ever gave me the chance. The classes were brutal. I was 35 years old sitting next to 18-year-olds who grew up with computers. I failed my first 2 tests, but I kept going because this was about my son. Then I started following his interests from a distance. He posted about video games on social media, so I learned about those too. He was into this band called Arctic Monkeys. I bought every album and memorized the lyrics. I wasn't stalking him. I was preparing for the day he might give me a chance. One day, I saw on Linda's Facebook that Ethan had won some big coding competition at school. I was so proud my chest hurt, but I couldn't tell him, so I wrote him a letter, not asking for forgiveness or trying to explain my failures, just congratulating him on his win and mentioning how impressed I was with his project about data visualization. I included a small technical detail about the programming language he used that showed I actually understood what he'd accomplished. It wasn't just generic dad praise, it was specific. He didn't respond, but he didn't block me either, which felt like progress. 6 months later, I tried again. This time about a gaming tournament he'd entered. Again, I showed I understood his world without being pushy or dramatic. This went on for 2 years. Small letters every few months. Never asking for anything, never mentioning my addiction or the past, just showing I cared about his life and understood who he'd become. I celebrated his achievements from a distance, worried about his struggles in silence, learned everything I could about his interests so I could be the dad he deserved, even if he never let me try. Then last Christmas Eve, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Dad?" I almost dropped the phone. It was Ethan's voice, deeper now, but still my little boy. "I got your letter about my graduation project," he said quietly. "How did you know so much about machine learning algorithms? Mom said you barely finished high school." I told him about the computer classes, about studying his interests for 3 years just to understand him better, about failing tests and staying up all night learning about things I never cared about before just because he cared about them. There was silence for a long time. "That's actually pretty incredible, Dad," he said. "Most parents don't even know what I do for work, and you understand the technical details better than my professors." We talked for 40 minutes about his job at a startup, his girlfriend Amy, his tiny apartment downtown, normal stuff, father and son stuff I'd missed for 8 years. "Dad," he said before hanging up, "maybe we could grab coffee sometime when I visit Mom for Easter." I cried for 2 hours after that call. 3 months later, we met at a Starbucks in Linda's town. He looked so much like me at that age, it took my breath away. We talked for 3 hours about everything except the past. Now he calls me twice a month. We text about work problems and life stuff. Last week, he asked for my advice on a coding project. He said I was the only person he knew who might understand the specific technical problem he was facing. My son needed me. For the first time in 10 years, my son actually needed his dad. That's how you win them back. You don't chase them or beg for forgiveness. You become worth coming back to. You learn their language, respect their space, and prove through actions that you've changed. It took 4 years of one-way communication before he called me back. But every letter, every class, every night spent learning about his world was worth it. Sometimes love means waiting. Sometimes it means becoming a completely different person. But if you're patient and you do the work, sometimes you get a second chance to be the parent you should have been all along.